Harvard University is the richest university, probably in the world, but certainly the richest university in the United States. Nobody's even close. A source of immense pain for places like Yale and Princeton. Harvard enjoys tax-exempt status. It is not required to pay taxes, not on the dividends it gets from the shares it owns. Let me remind you, 36 billion, I believe, is their current value of their endowment. That's their savings, their pot of gold. They earn billions in dividends, interest, rents, and so forth. Their tax bill on that is, ready? Nothing. Zilch. You all pay more taxes than they do, and you don't have 36 billion. Another one of their taxes that they don't pay is a property tax. See, if you live in a community, you have a house or land or an automobile, many of you know that, you have to pay an annual property tax to the town, that's how we work it in this country, where the property is registered or located. Harvard is an enormous institution with hundreds of buildings spread out over some of the most valuable land in the world, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in Boston, Massachusetts, because in Boston is where the Harvard Medical School and certain of its schools are. They're not all in Cambridge. They don't pay property taxes. This becomes interesting because a large part of Boston is very poor people right now. And those poor people don't get the services they need and want because a major owner of property doesn't have to pay taxes on that property. The poor people who need the services don't get them because a $36 billion institution is exempt from paying taxes. This is called Robin Hood in reverse. Universities have this pleasure, churches have this pleasure, medical institutions have this pleasure, so on. But Harvard is among the richest of them. Here, let's give Harvard its due. You are the richest. You couldn't possibly justify this on the grounds of need. You couldn't justify this on the grounds of, you know what? You couldn't justify it on any grounds, because the reason that exemption was given to Harvard, to Yale, and others had to do with their origin hundreds of years ago. The one I know best, Yale University, but the same applies to Harvard. Here's the story. Those were Protestant communities that were established by colonists, mostly from England, who came and did something to the local Native American population that we know is not anything we want to discuss. Fortunately, they went away, or something happened to them we can't remember. So the colonists settled in, and they were Protestants, Bible-fearing or Bible-thumping or whatever you call it, people. And they wanted churches. Protestants are like that. They wanted churches. And they didn't have any. Well, they could solve that problem. They built them. But the problem was they didn't have any ministers to minister to them in the church. And what were they going to do? So they hit upon an idea. Let's set up a school to train ministers to sit and preach in our churches here in New England. So they did. That was the origin of Yale. That was the origin of Harvard. And here was the thought. This is expensive. We have to train these people for several years, and they're not going to make any money, and then they're going to be ministers, and they don't make much money that way either. We really can't do this if the institution has to pay taxes. So we're going to give it a tax exemption. And the rationale, written down. We, the community, benefit from this. It's a community benefit to have ministers in our churches. So it's reasonable for us to get this benefit to ourselves by giving them a tax exemption because they serve the community. What portion of Harvard or Yale today, would you guess, is busily training to become Protestant ministers? The answer is, if not zero, really close to zero. Even in the divinity schools, which they both have, they're training people who go all over the world. The logic of giving them a tax exemption because they serve the local community disappeared centuries ago. Why is it held on to? Because they don't want to pay taxes. They want to be rich institutions, and so indeed they are.